Hello everyone and welcome to another video and Happy New Year! Today we're going to be making thumbnails like Tfue, so if you're excited, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new, subscribe for more thumbnail tutorials in the future. To be making thumbnails like Tfue, we're going to be using this software called Source Filmmaker, and it's free on Steam. So you need to download Steam and you need to install Source Filmmaker. It's pretty straightforward. After that, we need to add models to the actual software. So you need to go to your library and go to where Source Filmmaker is, and it should be right here. It is listed in alphabetical order. And after that, Steam went through a recent update, so it's actually easier to navigate. You're gonna go and click the workshop tab. Now, you need to input keywords in the search bar. So you can type in something like Fortnite, and we're gonna find like models that you want to use. So you can use your skin, and you can also find weapons and other consumables, most of the Fortnite items that have been added. So you can add, for example, let's see, what have I not added? You could add this skin, and to add skins, you can just click the plus button and it turns into a blue check mark. I made a full video on how to do this. A card should pop up in the top right and you can go and click that. It'll only take a couple of minutes. You can add weapons to use as well. So after you do that, you're now ready to head into Source Filmmaker. So let's go back to the library and let's go to Source Filmmaker and click launch, and just click launch again. Then it is going to load, and you can name this anything. We're just going to name this Tfue, and you can change where this save file saves to, but I'm just going to leave it as is, and then you hit create. Now after you add your model from the workshop, it should pop up and it should tell you what has been added, and just hit OK. If this pops up, all you need to do is click yes to all, and that should add it successfully. Now right here it says no map loaded. All you need to do is right click, click load map, and originally Source Filmmaker was made for modeling and creating these animations for this game called Team Fortress. So if you delete this, you're gonna see all these, and they're actual maps that you can put your characters in, but we use this map called White Room. So I also have a tutorial on how to place White Room into your Source Filmmaker to use. So after you go and watch that, then come back to this video. Then we're gonna click White Room. I'm gonna click open, and it takes some time to load, so let's wait for that to happen. So now we have an actual White Room. After we do that, we're gonna change this from the clip editor to the motion editor. So click that. This is the middle one. And now we're gonna go into this empty space here. We're going to right click it, and we're gonna click create animation set for new model. Okay, so the first model that I'm going to add is the Yuletide Ranger. So let's filter that out. And all you need to do is type in Yule, and it should filter out already. And then we're going to click open. Okay, so we have the Yuletide Ranger right here. Now I'm going to add a second model for this thumbnail. So once again, we are going to right click and click create animation set for new model. Now for this one, I'm not entirely sure which other skin I'm going to pick, but I'm going to filter it out so that, and by typing in Fortnite, so that only the Fortnite characters are here. And I'm just going to pick one. So I decided to go with the dark bomber skin. So after you select it, once more, click open. So now we have our two models. So what I'm going to do real quickly, I'm going to start with the Yuletide Ranger. So I'm going to go over here, over to the eyeball next to the dark bomber. I'm going to deselect that. So now we're going to work on the posing. And I also made a tutorial on how to do that, so you can check that out as well. I'm going to go rather quickly and probably speed it up. So we have successfully posed our Yuletide Ranger, and before we go on to the Dark Bomber, what I'm going to do is go over here to where it says camera 1 and click it again so that it changes to the work camera. The work camera is what we're going to be using from now on to do all the, well, you know, work and the posing and the lighting and stuff. And then when we're done, we'll switch back to the camera 1 to make the final render that we're going to be using for our thumbnail. The posing process is now complete. Let us switch back to camera 1, which is also here in the bottom right corner. So click it once and we'll get camera 1. And if we deselect, then you can see that we have the 2 posed characters. But you probably notice that something looks a bit off with these 2. Something isn't right. If you guessed it right, that is the facial expressions. There's no facial expressions, and I didn't forget. It's just that I personally like to work on the posing first for all of the models and then work on the facial expressions just to stay organized. So that is what we're going to work on right now. Okay, now that that's done, we are ready to add the lighting. But before we add the lighting, we need to add a green screen, which is something you can also get from the workshop on Steam. So right click over here once again and click create animation set for new model and just type in green. And the top one should be selected. It is the 1024, it doesn't really matter. And click open. Now it looks like it is not here. But if you go back to the work camera, you have to go to a certain angle and should be here. Now click the rotation tool and select the green screen and rotate it. Go back to the move tool and bring it closer. And this is just fine. You can see because in the actual final render that we have, it is filling up the entire space. We are now ready to add the lighting. So we're going to go back into this empty space, right click, and this time we're going to click create animation set for a new light. Click that. And since we have the extra viewport here, we can drag it down here and we can move the light, but we can still see how that looks as the final render here in the primary viewport. So for the first light in the 3-point lighting system, we're going to go slightly above the head of the subject. And we're going to move back so that it is shining down on them. Once again, from this subject's left side. Then we're going to bring down the intensity. And I'll probably come back and adjust it later on. Our second light is going to be behind the subject. So we're going to right click again and create a new light. Now we're going to go behind them. And we're going to reduce the intensity. Bring the intensity very low. And we need to get it into an angle so that you can see that the outline of the subject starts to have like this nice shine to it. Now this thumbnail is a little unique. So there's going to be an explosion in the background. So we need this orangish colored light shining from this area. So we're going to go back here and create a new light. I'm going to drag it down and gonna go to the back of our subject. And this will be the filler light. Usually the filler light is very, very dim and subtle, but since this is a unique instance, it is going to be brighter. So usually we would take it all the way down here, but in this case, let's have it a little brighter than that. Now, since it's an since this light is more orange in color, we're gonna scroll down here until we get these color sliders, and they are red, green, and blue. Now, it is not the colors of the rainbow. This is more of the opposite colors. So to change it, you need to understand a couple of things. The opposite of red is cyan, the opposite of green is magenta, and the opposite of blue is yellow. So with that being said, that means that we need to move the blue over to make it more yellow. And essentially, in this case, that is all you need to do. This is a nice orange. Let's see what happens if we try moving green over. It makes it more reddish, but we don't need that. We can move it over a little, and that should be fine. Let's increase the intensity a little and go down. So that has more of a defined look. And there you go. Now I'm just going to create another light to go behind him so that his hand actually has some lighting. I'm going to make it very dim. And that is how lighting works. Now we're just going to do the same thing for the dark bomber, and I'll get back to you guys in a second. Okay, after a ton of finagling, we are finally done with the lighting. Now we are ready to export and go into Photoshop. So now what you want to do before you actually export, you want to right click anywhere here and click render settings. Disable motion blur and go over here to where it says number samples, use camera settings. Click that and go to 1024 override, and that'll make sure that it is rendered in the highest quality it can possibly render, and click OK. Now go to file and we're gonna hit export poster. Make sure you click poster, not image, and you can save this if you want, but I'm going to continue without saving. You can change the resolution. I'm gonna do 1920 by 1080. I'm gonna change this to PNG. I'm gonna change where this exports to by clicking the three dots. And I'm just gonna go to desktop and name this Tfue. Click save. Click export poster. You can already see how nice it looks. Let's head into Photoshop. So we are in the magical world of Photoshop, and we're just gonna go over here and click create new. Then we are going to go to one of the presets here, which is new in the latest versions of Photoshop. I'm just going to do 1280 by 720p. Now I'm gonna hit create. Now I'm going to get the render that we just made. I'm just going to drag and drop it in. The next thing we're going to do is go over here on the left and click the magic wand tool. The shortcut is W. I'm going to select all of the green areas. Select one area, hold shift to select multiple areas, and then click them. Make sure you get all of the areas. Sometimes I forget and then I have to go back. Select all of those areas. With everything selected, we are going to take one more step. That is to go to select, modify, expand, and just leave it at 1. Because if you don't do this, then there's some green fringes that are left from the green screen, even when you crop everything out. So we're going to do that, and we're going to go here, and we're going to click add a layer mask to mask out the green screen. But you see it masked out the subject, so we're gonna hit Control and I to invert it so that we have the subjects and the green screen is deleted. Now I've already brought in the screenshot that I took in the replay mode, and for some reason now the storm is visible even after you customize the island creative settings. But when you go into the replay for that, it shows the storm circle. So, but nonetheless, hopefully it's fixed by the time you guys make thumbnails like this. We're gonna hit Control T. We're gonna hold Alt and we're gonna expand it from the center. Okay, and now we're gonna bring it down. You can also use the arrow keys. I'm gonna make it bigger. Bring it down. Okay, and the key is to make sure that the screenshot is proportionate to the actual subject, since there isn't like these Fortnite maps that you can customize yourself, or at least not any that I know of. And after that, hit enter. Now we're gonna add some filters to add some dimension and vibrance to our image. So we're gonna go up here to image adjustments, and the first thing we're going to do is add exposure. So click that, and you can play around with this, increase the exposure. You can increase the gamma correction and the offset as well. And you can hit OK. And since it's a smart object, you can go back and customize this in the future. Once again, we're going to go back here and we are going to add a vibrance. Add some saturation. Increase the vibrance. Then we're going to also add a curves. So click curves. And now I usually like to do an S curve. So click on one point up here and bring it up. And then click on one point down here and bring it down. That adds some nice contrast. Once again, this is subjective, so you can play around with this and make it your own. Once you're done, hit OK once again. Now let's take a look, the before, the after. Now, since the storm kind of ruined it for me, there is no blue sky. I'm going to do one more thing, and we're going to go to filter. I'm going to go to blur, and you can go to blur gallery, but to make things simpler for you guys, I'm just going to add a Gaussian blur. And we're going to take it all the way down to add a little depth of field as well. Not too much though. And then once you're done, you can hit OK. Now, I'm actually going to get rid of the exposure and replace that with a brightness and contrast. There we go. And we kind of already added a contrast with the curves layer, so we don't need to do that again. That'll be redundant. And hit OK. Now we're almost done. Now we just need to make the subjects blend in more with the actual background, since it's a screenshot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer by clicking here. And I'm going to press B to get that out of the brush. Hold Alt, right click, and bring it to the side to increase the size. You can give it a little hardness by dragging down. Hit X here to switch the color over here to make sure it's white. Make it a little larger. And just gonna dab it like this. I think for here I will use a more orange colored color. An orange colored color. That's new. Now we're going to change the color to this orange. Hold Alt and click anywhere from the explosion. Make it larger. Okay. Now we are going to reduce the opacity or fill. Let me try fill. Okay. And now we're going to double click our subjects. We're going to give them an inner glow. You can change the inner glow to white. And make sure that it's set to overlay. Okay, now that looks pretty nice. And you can see how much easier they blend in. You can adjust the size. Make it like this, make it like that. It's up to you. I think I'm going to make it like this. It's a nice balance between it. And you can change the choke as well. Then you're going to hit OK. And you're done. This is how you make thumbnails like Tfue. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you leave a like rating. If you disliked it, leave a dislike. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you're notified whenever I upload in the future. Comment any feedback down below. And one more thing, I actually created a Patreon the other day, but I'm not sure how it's going to reward anyone who decided to be a Patreon. But I guess I'm going to make it a $2 or $5 subscription, you know, nothing crazy. And literally just this second, I finally figured out what I was going to do for the patrons. I'm going to upload the unedited versions of my tutorials, so if there's a part where I speed it up or skip a certain part, you guys can look at it and can follow it more closely. And I might also give access to the PSD files for the tutorial, or I actually might just make that free for all. I think I'm going to make that free for all, but the unedited versions of my tutorials are all going to be posted to the Patreon for you guys to look at. So if you're interested, the link will be in the description down below. Anyway, guys, enjoy your day, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial for thumbnails. Enjoy the new year and the rest of your day.